A better opportunity for the companion pass, talking Korea, the longest bridge in the world, the tallest bridge in the world, all of that coming up right now on MTM Travel.
We don't like Disney. We like bridges.
Well, the true answer is we like both Disney and bridges, Mark, but
Well, you
we're not going
do.
to talk any Disney on this show. Back in the United States and talk a little bit more about our trip. And there's a new opportunity for the companion pass. There was a status match opportunity that was almost too good to be true. And what happens when things are too good to be true? We'll talk about all of that coming up. I also used Accor points, which is fun.
Yeah, for like the rattiest looking hotel I think you've stayed at in a while. And did you guys push the beds apart? Could you? I don't know. It felt like maybe you could feel Dave breathing on the back of your neck if you didn't.
That's actually my number one move in all of these rooms in Asia. A lot of times the beds are very close together, so I go and walk and push them apart. And yes, I did in that room. But we'll talk about the Ibis Styles Seoul Gangnam and how I was feeling sorry for myself in that room a little bit later. But where do you want to start? It's been a fun week. How are you doing?
I'm good. Soccer season's over with the kids, so I'm kind of happy about that. We had the tournament on Saturday, so I have a little bit more free time. It's like all compacted into a couple weeks. It's just like craziness. So I'm pretty exhausted. And then we're going on our trip on Wednesday morning, heading out. So I know we'll talk about that more next week, but kind of excited for that. A couple days eating pizza, driving around upstate New York, New Haven, all that stuff.
Yeah, I am so jealous. New Haven Pizza, my opinion, the best pizza in the country, in the world. I think the best pizza I've ever had, even better than in Italy. I know that might be sacrilege, but New Haven Pizza is so good.
Well, I think it's better than Italy pizza, and you don't have to use a knife and fork to eat it, which, if Yvonne is listening, it's so dumb when they bring out the full pizza and they're just like, here you go. We didn't cut it. Have fun.
Have you ever seen those like TikTok? There's this couple of Italian dudes who do these TikToks where they react to like how Americans mess up Italian culture, like making weird pizzas. And it's so funny every time I come across one of their videos.
No, when I was there, I just ended up cutting it with my knife into slices and picked it up. I probably looked just like a typical American. I'm not having this. I was tired, jet lagged. I just wanted some pizza. And I'm like, okay, this is not working. There was one place we went that they did cut it for us. But yeah, maybe you want to bring your pizza cutter with you when you travel. I don't know if that will get through TSA or not, but worth a try.
It's funny because I've always liked using a knife and fork, but like it depends on the style of pizza. What was it like Bill de Blasio a few years ago? He was eating somewhere when he was running for mayor of New York City and he used a knife and fork, and then everybody went nuts because you can't do that with a New York slice.
Yeah, and I think if it's like a Chicago style or deep dish or something a little bit heftier, you have to use the knife and fork. Or even in New Haven when we did modern appease, it was so floppy that I just used a knife and fork because you couldn't pick it up. It was drooping down. The flavor was amazing, but the crust just wasn't had no crisp to it. So that sometimes you just have to. There's no other option. But I've never had a New York style that I couldn't pick up. So I don't blame them.
Yeah, modern has the taste, in my opinion, the best sauce, but their crust leaves a little to be desired. And then Frank Pepe, that's the other one I've had. I know that there's four. You've had Sally's, you've had more. So you'll report back next week, maybe figure out what's the best of all of them, and we can discuss that.
Yeah, I'm throwing in one that is like 15 minutes outside of town that a lot of people say is the best in the area. I think it's called Roseland Appease. So I'm going to try to do that. It's out by the Hyatt place or Hyatt House where we're staying at. So I'm excited to give that one a try. It's more a local place. I don't think as many people know about it. It doesn't get as much hype as modern Frank Pepe, Sally, all that stuff. But we're gonna hit them all, and we'll see if the wife and daughter can get through it. I know my son can pack it down, but eating 5 or 6 pizzas in a day can take out the best person.
Yeah, but totally worth it. If you're somebody who's never had like good pizza, or you just have the chain stuff and you think that's good, then yeah, try. If you're ever going through New Haven, just stop in there.
If
I
you like
promise
Chicago
your
thin
mind will be
crust,
blown. Oh God, yeah. If you were a Chicago,
we're
all the people
we're
in Chicago hate us, but it's bad.
Pat's gonna send me a nasty gram. But no, yeah, it's funny. It is better than New York style. Like everybody's always like, "Oh, I love New York style. It's thin." It's like, well, New Haven style is even thinner, and it's just got that coal flavor to it. It's really good.
I never understood the Chicago people. You already have the deep dish, which is incredible for its own thing. Some people say it's not pizza, whatever, but it is the tastiest thing that comes out of Chicago pizza wise. And then you just want to double down on that thin crust stuff. But maybe there's a good place. So let us know in
I'm
the
sure there
comments
is.
where there's some good thin crust. We just haven't found it yet.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk. Let's talk Seoul real quick. I was in Seoul, and on the last show I talked about Shanghai and how some of the incredible technology in China, and I was still on the road at the time, so recommend going back and listening to that. But our next stop was Seoul, and we went to Lotte World. Which, if people don't know what Lotte World is, well, first off, if you're in Korea, in South Korea, you will see the name Lotte everywhere. There's like Lotte shops, Lotte duty free, the Lotte Tower, which we'll talk about in a second. Lotte World is their version of kind of like Disneyland. It's an indoor, outdoor theme park, which has its own castle, and you can tell it took some inspiration for that. And I had been there before, but took my buddy, and it was just packed in there, so it wasn't a great experience. Not going to talk a ton about that. But next door is the Lotte Tower, which is the 6th largest or tallest building in the world. And it's a pretty cool experience if you're in Seoul to go up there. I love these new towers, Mark, where they're giving you an experience as you go. Like the elevator has screens all in it, and it kind of tells a story as you're going up. This was one of the coolest observation decks I've seen, and I was really glad to get up there. And the combo ticket for like the park and the tower was super cheap. Used Klook all over Asia. I think I said that on the last show. So for your attraction tickets, I highly recommend Klook, Klook. For me, they're the best sort of provider. Everything's QR code digital. You don't have to worry. You just go to the gate and scan it. You can use portals and all that stuff too. So super cheap to get up there and super easy these days.
Yeah, and it's weird with that building. There's nothing like tall around it, or at least like not right on top of it, where you see in other major cities where a tall building next to tall building next to tall building. So it just kind of it's like shooting up into the sky out of nowhere. It seems like when you're underneath it, which is kind of cool. But so at Lotte, do they just play Lottie Dottie? We like to party? I don't know how to say it. Did they just play that song on repeat? Man, that was a bad joke.
Yeah, that was a little rough. I didn't even get the reference. So
Oh, you never heard that song?
Oh, Lottie Dottie. Okay, I got it. I got another song now. Okay.
That's all I'm thinking. It's just going as you're talking that whole time. That's all I'm just playing that song in my head over and over again. So apologies for completely butchering that. But no, it looked pretty amazing, and I do love when they kind of bring in an element of teaching or learning or something unique while you're in there, because you're going to be in there for a little bit to go up to the top. And similar, like when you ride the Harry Potter train going from one park to the next, they put it like a little movie on the screen, so it passes the time while you're in there. And yeah, it just adds another feature to what you're doing.
I also appreciated they didn't overfill the elevators. Now, it wasn't that busy when we were there, so I don't know, but they didn't crush 20 people into every elevator, which is nice for people who don't love being in crazy elevators when you're going up 100 stories. But yeah, it's really good. And it's, as you say, it's kind of outside the center of Seoul, a little east of Gangnam, in this own area where it's right next to the amusement park.
Gangnam Style.
Yeah, Gangnam Style. See, there you go. And that's the area that I wanted to stay in, which is why we stayed at the lowly Ibis, which we'll talk about in a second. But yeah, this area is kind of neat. Lots of luxury malls. In fact, the amusement park is in sort of the basement of a mall. And then the Lotte Tower has its own mall. And then there's another Lotte mall. So there's like 3 giant malls around there. One good thing is we got Din Tai Fung. And it's always nice to get that. It was almost similar to the price that we saw in Taiwan, which is super cheap compared to the prices for Din Tai Fung in the US. And it held up so good. Oh my God. Just so good.
See, you're just trying to make up for those McDonald's and Chili's and...
Yeah, by eating Chinese soup dumplings in Korea.
Oh no, yeah, that's awesome. I love the soup dumplings there, and I'm glad that you got to. And it's so much cheaper. It just shows, how the cost gets more expensive as you come over here, and rents and everything else that's involved in that, and pay scale and everything. So take advantage of it when you're somewhere else, so you can get a similar experience, maybe probably even a better experience for a fraction of the cost. So that's cool to see. Did you go to any baseball games, any K-pop dances, anything cool like that?
No, but there was K-pop Demon Hunters had a pop-up at Everland, which was another park that we went to. Everland is owned by Samsung, and it's sort of like the ski resort that's just outside Seoul, but they also have an amusement park that's open in the summer. Really neat because you're basically in the mountains, and way outside of the city. So that's another cool. In fact, if I was going to recommend a park, if you're bringing kids there or something, Everland is the park I would recommend going to. You can get direct shuttle service from various parts of Seoul. We actually were taking Ubers, and it didn't work out to be that expensive just because there was times where our schedule was a little bit tight, but instead of the public transport, and that worked out pretty well. But yeah, let's talk about the Ibis. So I wanted to stay in the Gangnam area because I like that area. You just can't, you can't do it. But
it looks like a 2005 Hyatt place, got robbed, and then they put it into a shoebox, and that's what this hotel room is.
you're the one who wanted me to use Accor points for everything. This is your fault.
Dumpiest Accor hotel possible.
So what happened was we had to change our trip, as people know. A couple weeks before, we had to change the dates because my friend had an obligation at work, and that kind of threw the whole schedule of everything out. And we ended up getting to Seoul the week before their like fall festival thing, where a lot of people have the days off, their Thanksgiving, I think they called it. And so it wasn't the holiday when we were there, but it was leading up to it. And all the hotels were crazy busy because it was going into the weekend before. And all of the points hotels were sort of taken. We could have done the Grand Hyatt, which is across town, more in the touristy area. But for what we were doing, it made more sense to be on the other side of the river. And so I looked at all the options on points, cash. Nothing made the most sense except for, I was like, we're not going to spend very much time at all in the hotel. Here's Accor points and the Ibis Styles Seoul Gangnam. And yeah, you can see video of the room here. Very basic sort of room. But let's talk the economics of it. It was 14,000 points, so 7,000 points a night that covered about $325 worth of the cost. When we're converting everything, I still had to pay about $14 at the end because Accor points only cover, what is it, in 40 euro chunks? I forget how it works, but yeah. So anyway, $325 for 14,000 points. And it was a pretty good deal. Not a fancy room, not that nice. I was feeling sorry for myself, but it worked in the end. And there was a beautiful beer garden next door too that we hung out with. So that it was a great area. The hotel was a fantastic area. Yeah,
I'll stay there now. No, but Accor is so good for these types of hotels and just getting good deals when nobody else is having good deals. I know I talked about how we were able to book the room in London, and we did the family thing where you add an extra room for, if you have kids, and it was half the price. But that works out in our favor because everything is based on the cash price. So we got it super cheap, and you got that room for 7,000 points a night. That was only 7,000 thank you points because you took advantage of when they had that 1-to-1 error or transfer bonus or whatever was going on. But if you took advantage of the built promo and you had that 2-to-1 transfer bonus, then you're talking 3,500 built points. Like, that's insane to get that type of value out of the points, when cash rates were sky high.
Yeah, so I'm very happy to have the Accor points, and I'm happy they're part of my arsenal. I could have gone in other directions, but they all would have cost me more money or more points than we wanted to do. I would have loved to stay in the Park Hyatt. That's why I really fell in love with that area of Seoul the last time I was there. It was a category 4. Now it's a category 6. And like I said, it wasn't even available on points. But you're starting to talk of this world where Hyatt has pushed these hotels up. And a few years ago, going to the Park Hyatt Seoul, amazing hotel for 15,000 points. And now you're really having to make that decision, especially when you're on like a friend's trip. The family's not with me. How much am I spending on that? And so, yeah, this was sort of a budget
Dave,
option.
you get the shit box.
No, actually, and one other hotel to mention in Shanghai, we talked about the Centric, but the first couple nights out by Shanghai Disneyland, we stayed at this new Courtyard by Marriott, which is right near Disney and has shuttles to the park and all of that stuff. $81 a night, and it was great. Like, it's just tells the story of how a lot of hotels in China are. They're much nicer than their brands at home. So this was a full service hotel, even though it was a Courtyard. The buffet was great. The room was really nice. They even had they upgraded us to one of the family rooms that had like a tent in it and all the stuff for kids. It was a great hotel for $80 a night. So that's another recommendation if you're by Shanghai Disneyland. Nobody did, but did
you guys have some s'mores under there and pretend you're camping?
It's funny because the last time we went to Shanghai Disneyland 2017 together, we stayed at a Mercure property, which is an Accor property, and they also upgraded us to a room with a tent. So I guess that's a thing for Chinese families going to Shanghai Disneyland. Neat stuff, but yeah, no use for it for us.
No, I think that's kinda cool to have that in the room, and I know my kids would've loved it when they were, like, 4 and 6 or in that range. Would've been a lot of fun for them, even if they didn't sleep in there. One of them, my son probably would've wanted to sleep in there, but fun experience, something unique, something different. I wish we saw a little bit more of that over here, so that's crazy that you got upgraded even though you had no status with the core.
Yeah, that hotel was brand new at the time. A really cool hotel. I think it's the Mercure Shanghai Clover. It's another recommendation. It's very close to Shanghai Disneyland. I just wanted to try the Courtyard, and I had platinum status, so we got the free breakfast and all of that, so it made sense to do it. But I'd stay at either one of those hotels for Shanghai Disneyland, and you're talking super cheap. I think the Mercure is very similar in price, and yeah, cash prices at hotels in China are cheap. And when you're going from making those decisions on this trip, for example, we had our days in China where they cost significantly less than when we go to Seoul and Tokyo. And so that's something to keep in mind hotel wise, because a lot of value in the hotels in China, cheap points, really nice service, incredible breakfast buffets. You get all of that. Not that you don't get it elsewhere. It's just you're going to pay more in some of those other Asian capital cities.
Yeah, probably 2, 3 times more, right?
Yeah, and that's the example of the hotel, right? I mean, Category 2, brand new Hyatt Centric in Shanghai, just a gorgeous hotel, very comparable to the Category 6 Centric in Tokyo, as we talked about. So, yeah, I'm happy the Ibis. I didn't feel too sorry. Like I said, we spent very little time in the room. The air conditioning wasn't like central to each room, but they kept it cold enough and it was cool enough outside that it worked. We were able to open the window. They had a screen on it, Mark, so it wasn't like
There we go.
Europe, and it worked out. Okay.
They figured out how to do screens there. I'm telling you, if anybody wants to make $1 billion, go to Europe and make screens, sell it to people, and be like, "Hey, you don't have to live with bugs in your house overnight. It's okay."
The funniest thing, though, that beer garden I told you about, it was themed to the oldest brewery in the world, which is just north of Munich. I forget the name of it, but I like saw the name and it said oldest brewery in the world, and I was like, I think I just went to that town when I was in Munich this summer, right before we went to the airport. We had an hour to kill, and we went to this town. I'll try to throw it up on the screen, like the name of it, but it was this beer garden in Seoul was themed to the oldest brewery that I visited just by chance in the summer in Munich. It's sort of crazy how small the world can be.
Yeah, and you always run into things like that, or you see somebody that you know across the world, and you're like, "Oh, what are the chances that you're here?" And it really is a small world, and airlines and everything being more accessible, miles and points, it just makes it even that much smaller.
So let's talk about this Southwest Companion Pass offer. And that is the Southwest Performance Business Card, has 120,000 rapid rewards points after 10,000 in spend. We've talked about how you want to time this, and you do a lot in the article to kind of show people when they should spend and how they should get there. And this is probably the easiest way to do it all with one card, although it does have the higher, $299 annual fee.
Yeah, and you can space this out because just by holding the card, it drops the requirement from 135 down to 125K. So the way I base it out in the article is, yeah, maybe you can't do the full $10,000 and spend, after the first of the year. Technically, you can start as soon as your December statement cuts, but I wouldn't go over just in case they change the way that they calculate things. I wouldn't go to the full 10K until after January 1st. So if you have something lined up at the beginning of the year and okay, I can do $5,000. You could do $5,000 now after you sign up until December 31st, let's say, or until your December statement cuts, and then start working on that last $5,000. Maybe you do $4,500 on Christmas gifts or whatever, Hanukkah gifts, and you do that in the second part of December after your statement cuts. That would roll into 2026, finish up the 5K early on, and now you're getting the 120,000 point bonus, 5K from the spend at least. That puts you right at the 125K to earn it. And this would probably be the only time you could actually earn it within the first couple of weeks of January. Normally, you need to sign up for a second card. So you get a full 2 years out of this if you do it right. Now, application timing is important. I would wait until at least like the 10th, 11th, 12th, maybe push it out to the 15th. We don't know exactly when this is going to end at this point, and we're getting to like this upcoming Sunday would be a time that I would start considering it. As long as we don't hear anything, usually these things change on Thursdays. So if we don't hear anything this Thursday, then you at least probably likely have it until the following Thursday, maybe more. Occasionally they change it on different days, but Thursday's usually the day. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But you push that out, that will give you the 90 days to hit the spend, will push you into, whatever you sign up for now. Essentially, let's think this way. If you sign up on the 12th, then you'll have until January 12th, maybe a couple more days than that, to finish that spend. And you can line this up where you get it for 2 full years.
Yeah, just be careful that the spend hits when it
Yeah.
needs to, and
People
waiting
mess it
to
up
the last day.
every time.
It's also good. You can message Chase or you can contact them to get the exact date, with whatever the buffer period is, because it can be based on when your application is approved. If it's not approved, on the day you apply and stuff. So I always like to make sure you can ask them, say, what is the date that everything has to post by, and they will give that information to you. So this card has a higher annual fee than a lot of the other cards, than the other business card, the personal cards. Do you think that this card by itself is worth having? I think you get 9,000 anniversary points per year. What else do you get with this card that you don't get with some of the other cards?
I don't think that it's really worth the $300. You get the points. That's a decent chunk. That's like half of it back. Let's say a little less than half. And then you get all the perks, the seats, the bags, all those things. So you could downgrade it after the first year to the other business card. If you fly Southwest enough, you probably want one of these cards. The ideal would be the cheapest possible card, because they all come with the same perks, essentially, as far as bags and seat picking and choosing where you want to sit and everything like that. So I would focus on that, but only having to do one card instead of two is kind of nice, and that helps offset the fee a bit. Instead of these two cards coming close to the same as this one card, you only have to get one. And then the secondary thing is you can get that early, where normally you have to sign up for the second card in January, and then it might take you a couple months to finish that spend. Now you're pushing it out a couple months. So if you have some flights in January and February, then this will save you on those flights when you get that companion pass lined up. So I think it's worthwhile going for. The one downside here is we don't know. Southwest could change the terms of the companion pass starting in 2026. I think that would have come out already. How diabolical would it be for them to come out with these 100K personal card offers that gave you like 5 months to spend, basically saying, hint, hint, here's your companion pass. And then following that up with the best ever business card offer. And then all of a sudden they pull the rug out January 1.
Theoretically, they could, right? Because you're not earning for that year yet. So it hasn't started yet. I do agree with you. I don't see them doing it. It would be something crazy. They've already lost so much goodwill with the community to do that with such short notice. Why wouldn't they have announced that with all the other changes, saying that this is coming? I think at this point they have all the data. I've said this before. I think it's something that's here to stay. They feel like it's driving enough revenue for them, but with the new powers that be, who knows in the long term. But I would do this with the assumption that it's going to be safe if you are going to do it. I mean, nothing in life is guaranteed, and you always have to know that. But good deal, and it's simple, and that's what's always really nice about it. And we've talked about what is the value that you get with the companion pass. Do you really get double the value? Probably not. But no matter how you slice this, if you fly a couple flights with Southwest in the next couple of years, you're going to come out ahead.
Yeah, it will add up, and you can, finagle things with your companion. You can change your companion at times and all of that stuff. So if you fly, like you said, Southwest, let's say you fly 3 times a year and the flight is 20K each. That's 120,000 points you save over the next 2 years. It's not that hard to really rack this up to make it worthwhile. I probably fly Southwest once a year now, so it wouldn't maybe be worth it to me. But even if you're just talking about the bonus, 120,000 points is probably worth $1,500 or more. That's a really insane high bonus offer, especially for an airline card. You don't usually see it up there. So I think even if it does fall through, you at least you're at least getting 120,000 miles more with the spend. But if they did change it, it would probably happen before the end of the year. We would hear something. So you still have a chance to push that spend through before the end of the year, try to trigger it so you could get 1 year companion pass. Not that I think that they will, but you have a couple outs here, which makes it a little less risky.
So let's talk about the Royal Jordanian status match, which I was traveling and completely missed this. And anytime something like this, so Royal Jordanian has done their status match for a long time, but they just recently opened it up to U.S. citizens and people in U.S. programs. And then they just basically put out this list of programs they're matching. And it didn't just include airlines. It was like all the hotel programs, and it was too good to be true. And then, of course, what was it? October 2nd, they stopped taking U.S. citizens. So just whenever you see something like this that's so good, jump in on it as quickly as possible, because chances are everybody else is going to do it too. And they don't anticipate how popular things will be.
Yeah, and the hotel one probably wasn't worth it for most. It would get you the low end one world status, which would get you like early boarding, maybe some free seats. So I guess it could make sense. It was only like $50 for that one. So that could make sense if you were flying an international airline in one world that you would have to pay for seats. You could come out ahead there. But if you had like mid tier or above airline status, then you could get it into one world status that's giving you lounge access on American Airlines, which is kind of crazy. And people are like, well, I have Platinum Pro with American Airlines. Why can't I get in? Well, because your one world status has to come from a different airline. It can't be that airline. Otherwise, they're giving away the baby with the bathwater. I don't know what the saying is, but it's just too generous. So if you earn it from an outside airline, an international airline, then when you're flying American, you could have gone in there and said, hey, here's my one world number. Yes, I get access to this lounge. Even if you have AA status, you don't even mention that. And you're flying AA and you show them that card or give them your number or whatever, and you can get in there. And this was the cheapest way, $150. If you had status with someone else that you could match to this, $150, you can get into all those lounges, including, I believe, the top tier American lounges.
Yeah, I mean, I used to use my status to do the Qantas first class lounge at LAX all the time. I believe that would still work. So yeah, a lot of good stuff. They even have like Spirit and Frontier programs on there for their matching,
Yeah.
which is just sort of nuts.
Companion Pass
Now, as
was one that matched to
Yeah.
like the top status.
Yeah, so it was a great opportunity. Hopefully people did it. If it opens back up, jump on it. Don't wait, don't hesitate if it
I,
makes sense for you.
before we recorded this, I went and just double checked, and it didn't have the disclaimer anymore that said no more Americans, basically. So I went into the terms, and I'm like, okay, so maybe it's back open again, and they just deleted USA from the list of countries.
And they just rolled back to the way they were before. They thought they wanted Americans, and then they realized, well, we do have a very different ecosystem of travel here because we have so much domestic flights and so many compared to these other countries where a lot of times it's all international, and so they get lounge access. So you're giving, you get a different level of benefit here, I think, with the one world status, and it can be hugely beneficial. I guess I should mention real quick, coming back from Japan, I'll talk next week about my Japan Airlines flight. Maybe, I don't know. We don't have enough time this week, but I got it was from Tokyo to Los Angeles, and then I needed a flight home. And just another shout out to Frontier for delivering me a $16 flight home, LAX to Las Vegas. Gold status got me my free carry-on. And then I don't have the higher tier status anymore where I could get the better seats guaranteed like at 24 hours out. But I was able to get an extra legroom seat guaranteed when I booked. And then I was able to switch. At one point, I switched to an exit row, but then right before the flight, somebody moved out of one of the blocked middle seat, the basically Frontier first class. So for $16, Frontier first class on the way home. A great little tool to have. Just another reminder that Frontier shouldn't be overlooked as well.
Yeah, and I checked their status match to see if that was still going this weekend, and it has unfortunately ended. So hopefully they bring that back sometime soon. If you fly them once or twice, it's usually worth doing the match to it, and they are very generous with what they match to too.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I just have the gold status, the same one that they've been doing with the matches. So I missed my diamond status that I used to have, where I got even more perks. But even then, still coming out ahead and just really enjoying. I mean, I don't enjoy the airline. I just haven't had any bad experiences lately. I did enjoy the middle seat, the empty middle seat. It was nice to have that following a rough Japan Airlines. I got to talk about jet lag and all that. So I guess I'll push that off to next week to talk about just fighting jet lag, the story of my life, because I've been sort of following that on this show for the last couple of years as I've struggled with it. This summer in Europe, I did really good with it, and then it all went out the window this last week. So maybe I'll follow up on that. So one of the big things in the last couple months, or I guess the last month, is the refresh of the Amex Platinum card, including all of those new FHR credits. I think many people who are watching, listening to the show are drowning in FHR credits, which, you know, I think for people who love hotels in this hobby, that's not a bad problem to have. I think this is one of the perks that people have gotten excited about, quite frankly, trying to find properties, how to use them. But you've been in the weeds, right? Booking FHR hotels?
Well, trying to book. I mean, I've been in the weeds because I had a platinum card. The annual fee just hit in like September 9th. So I had a few days to figure this out and try to get something booked before I had to cancel it because I wasn't going to keep it. They didn't give me a retention offer. So of course, like run into Lululemon, run into a Resi restaurant buying gift cards. Then on the first, 2 days later, running back to those same places, buying more gift cards. And the Lululemon people are getting so pissed about this. They're like, it's not supposed to work that way. You're supposed to buy stuff. I'm like, what do you care? You work here. Sell me my thing. This is coming from Amex. I don't know why you care, but they're getting upset about it. I'm like, okay, yeah, it's not supposed to work, but it does. So just give me the gift card. Well, she's like, it's not going to work. I said, just run it. Okay, thank you. And at Saks, they kind of know the deal. They don't give you so much gruff anymore, even though technically you're not really supposed to work for those either. So I had a couple days. I'm like, all right, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to look at every single trip I have upcoming over the next year, and I'm going to find an FHR hotel that I can use this for. I couldn't find one. The prices were just sky high everywhere. It's all these high end places. And I know they're saying they're going to be rolling in more IHG hotels and all this stuff, and it's supposed to get better, but it's still a big struggle. Now, certain cities, like I just randomly looked at Denver just to see, they have a ton of hotels there, fairly inexpensive. So you could use it there. But where I was going, the only one that came up that was under $500 was Turkey, and it was the Park Hyatt in Istanbul, which would have worked. It was just over $300. Would have been a good option, except for it's so far out of town. I don't want to stay there. It's more of like a couples retreat or actual resort versus being in the city center, which I booked with Accor points and have a really great hotel there. So I'm like, okay, that's not going to work. Maybe I'll book downtown Detroit for my wife's birthday coming up in December. We could spend a night there. I'll get a room. She'll get a room with her card. We'll have $200 to spend, bring the kids down there, all that stuff. Shinola's on there and it's $530 a night. But I swear it was like $425 before these when I checked earlier before the credits got bumped up. And I've heard from other people that they've seen hotel prices go up. So I think once these credits came out, everybody bumped their prices up through the FHR portal, and we're just kind of washing out that extra $100 unless you're going to certain cities. Last point I would say is, we overlooked the hotel collection before because it required 2 nights, and at $200 you're not getting much. That comes more into play now. I think there are some hotels that are in that $300-400 range. I checked out Cartagena. There was a couple that might have worked, but they weren't near the city center where we wanted to be for the 2 nights, so I didn't book those either. But don't just look at FHR hotels anymore would be my tip.
Yeah, I think this is what happens with so much stuff. And I wouldn't be surprised, as you say, if the hotels themselves are seeing increased demand and then raising their prices to try to, see how that works out for them. I wouldn't be surprised if Amex has factored in some additional cost into these bookings now that they're giving so many of the credits out. And I think that's a good example, is that it's not going to always work for you. And we're really not the customers that they want with this. They want you to use this credit as part of paying for a larger hotel that's more expensive and feel like you're getting a discount on it, as opposed to wiping out the whole charge. And the one thing we've talked about consistently in talking about Vegas on our Vegas show and everything else is that on the high end, travel is still very strong. And so prices are still very high at expensive hotels. I just saw that in Seoul, and I've seen it everywhere. People on the high end, people who have money, are still spending it on these luxury goods and items. And so you are competing in that world. It's not like it was a few years ago. And so there's more of a disparity there. I guess maybe I'll just burn all mine in Vegas.
Or you can go to Tyson's Corner, hang out with Benji. He loves that.
I mean, that's the point, is there's a property here or there, but there's a lot of properties that are $700, $800, $900 a night. And that's going to be a bulk of what you're going to find in a lot of cities. These, the super luxe hotels, not the 4-star hotels, but the super luxe Four Seasons types hotels that are not going to ever be cheap. And they're never going to be a good deal for you if you're trying to maximize this. But I know a lot of people who just have the Platinum card. If you really think about who their customer is that they want the bouginess in life, and that's what you're sort of getting, where we're trying to find the deal within the bouginess.
Yeah, I think you need to go to, smaller cities, not coastal cities. Internationally, I think this will be a really good option. I know our buddy Eric, who lives in Thailand, was like, Macau is perfect. It's like $350 a night for their top end hotels. So I'm going to go burn some credits there. So there is opportunity. It just isn't going to be like, oh, I'm going here, let me use one FHR credit. It will be so dependent on where you're going. Like I said, Denver seems to be like a sweet spot. Vegas used to be a really good sweet spot, but a lot of those hotels left the program, so it's a little bit more of a struggle there. Where Denver, there was a like 10 options that would have worked perfectly. So maybe we just need to all go to Denver and hang out together.
Yeah, the Four Seasons Macau is incredible. I stayed there with an FHR credit a couple years ago. It was only $200 a night, or it was like $220 out the door, and I used my $200 credit. And I can't describe how good the breakfast buffet is there, how great the service was there. Probably one of the better hotel deals I've ever had in my life. I wasn't missing Hyatt. I wasn't missing my status or anything. It just felt like we were special. So, and there's so many great hotels in Macau, and a lot of them are on FHR, and that is a great use, because the prices, as long as you're not there during like a very busy time, because the prices there can get insane, but their normal prices are much cheaper. And the service you get at hotels in Macau is just phenomenal. People should go there and experience that.
There you go. FOMO.
So let us know in the comments if you've been in the weeds like Mark, what hotels you found, what cities are the best. Help us spread the knowledge so we can all find the best hotels. I guess Denver, I got to plan a trip up there. It's close enough for me. I have so many credits to burn. But let's close with this. Bridges, Mark. And you found this video talking about this new bridge in China, which is the tallest bridge in the world. The Huajiang Grand Canyon Bridge, 2,050 feet above the river, and it's 4,600 feet across the river. Do you want to bungee jump off this thing? I mean, it looks incredible. These bridges that they're building these days.
No, I mean, unless it comes with a parachute or something, I'm not bungee jumping off that. But I love that they have a restaurant in like the peak of the bridge. So that would be pretty cool too, something unique. They have like glass areas, observation decks. Like they turn this into a whole spectacle, not just a bridge. But I think the bridge turns like a 2-hour drive into 2 minutes or something crazy like that. Just like kind of like the Pat Tillman Bridge where they put around the Hoover Dam, which saved a ton of time for people, cutting there. Not as drastic as this, but that's pure insanity. Cutting out 2 hours, man, I'd be driving all over the place.
Another insane bridge that I knew nothing about until this summer. We were on the cruise when we were in the Mediterranean, and the captain came on the loudspeaker, said we're going to be passing under this bridge. It's called the 1915 Çanakkale Bridge. I don't speak Turkish, so forgive my pronunciation there. It's the longest suspension span bridge in the world, and we sailed under it. And one of the cool things about being on a cruise ship is you can get way up top on the ship, and I think we had a clearance of only 10 meters, so we were 30 feet under the bridge as we passed underneath it. And this spans over 2,000 meters across. I don't know how much driving time it saves, or ferry time, but it has to be insane. That's over 6,000 feet. It's over a mile across. Think of the Golden Gate Bridge kind of spanning. And it's incredible. And just a shout out to going under big bridges on cruise ships. One of my favorite things to do. I've done it with the Golden Gate Bridge, some of the cool bridge in Tampa that I don't know the name of, up in Vancouver as well. Lots of cool bridges to go under. But yes, the longest and tallest bridges. These are it. I mean, we think about all the history, but 2025, we can do things that they never could do before. And it just keeps getting bigger, taller. And now it's a tourist event.
Yeah, I love that they turned it into something more than just a bridge, and that's kind of fun. And I mean, we've seen in Baltimore that tragedy that happened where the shipping container or the shipping boat hit the bridge and it collapsed. And I can't even imagine how much that's affected traffic and everything in that area. And I think it's going to take forever for them to rebuild it, really long time. So we see the opposite side when something like that's taken away. It throws a wrench into everything.
So let us know what you guys think about anything we talked about today. The companion pass, are you going for that offer? What is your strategy there? Accor Points, my sad hotel in Seoul, Lotte Tower, big bridges, big towers, all of that stuff. FHR, have you found any cool properties? Let us know down there. We do a new show every Monday, and we also have our Vegas show Tuesdays and Fridays. You can listen, you can watch, and thanks to all of you guys for doing both.
Have a good week, everybody. Lottie Dottie, we likes to party.
You got to go to Seoul. Lottie everywhere.